Hello, everyone, and welcome to the monthly Monday webinar series, which is a collaboration between JMG and MaineHealth. My name is Rachel McGill. I am the Healthcare Workforce Liaison. I'm really excited to bring this conversation to you today. The whole goal of this series is to bring awareness and to build knowledge for potential careers within healthcare that students can pursue after high school and beyond. So today I have Bettina Stiles with us. She is the manager of sleep services for the Maine Sleep Institute within MaineHealth. Bettina, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Rachel.
So we're going to start easy and could you talk about your individual career path, how you landed in this position? And maybe did you always know that you wanted to work in healthcare or how that transition may have happened?
I did not know what I wanted to do. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Uh, and when I came out of high school, I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. I didn't know what I wanted to do for a career. Um, I had gotten introduced to a couple of nurses and went into a CNA program. And the CNA program was really good, and I enjoyed it to most of the extent. But there were a couple of times when I felt like, okay, this is too much for me. I can't handle a lot of geriatrics and those kinds of things, especially with the high turnover, high mortality rate of the patients. So in that case, I ended up going into taking care of handicapped adults. So I went to healthcare that way and progressed as far as I could go there. And then I went into school for a medical assistant, and then I became a sleep tech. I always enjoyed working nights, and this is where I ended up. And now I'm the manager of the sleep lab.
Wow, so that's amazing. So you basically your whole career has been in healthcare, but you've done different things, done certain training programs, and each role kind of led to the next. So that's really fascinating. Thanks for sharing that. Um, so the topic that we wanted to talk about today was the sleep technician role. And I know that's not your
Mhm.
current position, but given that you've already done that role and also hire in for that position, I'm curious if you could kind of walk us through what a day in the life would look like as a sleep tech, or should I say a night in the life of a sleep tech? I'm guessing. Um, things like what tasks do they perform, what services do they provide, where do they work, what kind of environment do they work in, and who in healthcare do they interact with the most? I mean, I hope you got all that, but we can talk through
Yes.
that as we go.
Yep. The night techs come in, their shift starts at 6:30 p.m. and they either get one patient or they get two patients. And the one patient would be special needs or Inspire patients or pediatric patients under the age of 6. And those patients are all one-to-ones. And then other than that, our ratio is one technologist to two patients, and their shifts are 12 and a half hours long. And for the first probably 4 hours of their shift, it's basically direct interaction with the patients, doing paperwork, it's setting up the wires. It's these technologists set these patients up with wires from their shins to their heads.
Oh, wow.
The wires is about 28 to 32 wires, depending on the patient. And then the technologists monitor the patients for their cardiac, they monitor them for their respiratory, they monitor the EEG, they monitor muscle movements and all those kinds of things. And then in the morning they get them up and the patients are ready to leave around 6:15, 6:30, and then the technologists go home for 7.
Wow. So is it only a night role? They don't have any kind of day opportunity for this position?
Correct.
Okay, good to know. So, what qualifications or training or education does someone need to be a sleep technician?
We actually have a tiered system. So we do hire trainees. We hire polysomnography technologist ones. They are unregistered, uncredentialed, technologists. They could be technologists that have been in the field for years, or it could be that they just have never gotten registered, or they could be brand new to the field and come in as a trainee. And basically what they need to start off with is they need to have some sort of medical background. So whether it's an EEG, it's a respiratory therapist, it's a physician assistant, it's a medical assistant, an LPN, RN, CNA, some sort of medical background is what we need to in order to be able to come into the field. The last couple of people I've hired, one was an RN, and the other one was a dental student. So we
Oh,
do have
wow.
quite a range of people. So there, you basically just have to have some sort of medical understanding, medical terminology, anatomy and physiology in order to come into the field, and we will train you. And then the registered techs are a technologist too. And then if you are dual credentialed, so if you were a respiratory therapist and you become a registered polysomnography technologist, then you would be dual credentialed and you would be a tech 3.
Oh, got it. Okay, so there is a career ladder and progression for
Yes.
them to go through. That's great.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great. What kinds of interests or skills would make someone a good fit in this position?
Someone who really wants to help people, somebody who is interested in sleep, and somebody who likes to work nights. And most of the shift, I mean, it can be pretty quiet. It can be very, very fast paced, depending on the types of patients that you have. We do have patients that are from a few months old up into 99 years old. So sometimes the techs are up and down all night, either fixing wires or assisting the patients. And other times you're sitting quietly for 6 hours just monitoring equipment. So it can be quite the range of things that a technologist would be doing.
Yeah, that's good to know. Kind of there's some variability, but it could also be pretty, I don't want to say stagnant, but pretty,
Mhm.
you're stationary sitting for a while. So that's good to know.
Yep.
Um, in terms of, we're hearing a lot that there's shortages in the healthcare industry in a lot of different roles. Are you seeing that within your department? Are there opportunities and openings that you're hiring for currently?
We are hiring, and actually MaineHealth as a whole, right now we have 4 labs that are in our general region. So we have the sleep lab in Kennebunk, we have the one in Portland, we have one in Brunswick, and we also have one in Waldo County at Belfast. And all of those labs are looking for technologists. Sleep technologists have declined in numbers over the years. A lot of sleep labs have changed to different paths or just moved out of the state area. So getting a sleep technologist is some can be somewhat of a challenge. The closest school that I am aware of is at Northern Essex in Massachusetts. So that is the closest school that actually does a certified polysomnography program. So that's why we have our tiered system where we will train our techs here. So that way they don't have to worry about going through a school in another state.
Okay, got it. So the internal training program that leads to like a state of Maine certification, or how does that work?
So the trainees would come in, they would be trained on the job. They would go through an A-step program that's put on through the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. Those are self-study modules, and we reimburse for the cost of those. So as the trainee progresses through each module, they submit a receipt and a certificate, and then we reimburse them for the cost of that. And then after X number of hours on the job training, and depending on what their credentials are prior to, so when they're coming in, if they're an RN, there are different pathways, or if they're a physician, there are different pathways as to how they can go about getting their registry. There is a certified registry polysomnographer program. It only lasts for 3 years. It is not renewable. And then, so that's kind of a stepping stone in order to then get to a registered technologist. A registered technologist, the registry is good for 5 years, and you do not ever have to retest as long as you continue to get continuing education CECs or CMEs. So as long as you continue to get those and you submit them and you do the reinstatement fee, then you will keep your credentials and you don't have to retest it for that at all. There is
Okay.
also a CCSH, which is a certified clinical sleep health physician health practitioner, and that's the next step above being a registered technologist.
Got it. Um, so just so I understand, are these national certifications or are they state level?
They are national,
Oh,
actually
great.
worldwide. So so
Oh,
you can go
cool.
to any part of the United States or any other country, and that credential stands. Some states do require a license as well. Maine is not one of those states.
Great. That's good. That's good information, I think, for students to have.
Mhm.
And I really like that there is a tiered approach. So there is kind of more of an entry level way to get into the field and then progress as much as they want to in terms of leadership and role and capacity and their own personal knowledge. Can you share a range? I know because we're talking about different levels and people coming in with different qualifications, but what that hourly rate or salary could look like,
Mhm.
in a range for these positions?
So they range for the starting position is about the lower to mid 20s, and progresses up to the high 30s, low 40s.
Great. Thank you so much. Um,
Yep.
All right. So I mean, I talk with high school students. I also talk with college students who are, pursuing degrees in healthcare. So what would you say for a student who's interested in this area? How would they get started? What could they do maybe while they're in high school or in college? Are there things that would better prepare them or set them up to kind of take advantage of these positions?
Certainly, if people are really interested, I know that having an interest in working nights is a huge plus. Being able to stay up all night and not falling asleep, that's a big criteria. But certainly getting your foot in the door at a CNA program or taking a medical assisting program, um, pre-dental, anything that respiratory therapy, any of those types of things will open the door for having that basic medical knowledge, the anatomy and physiology, medical terminology. Those are the big things to be able to come into the field. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to have a degree or a certificate in any of these programs, but having those anatomy and physiology classes and having the medical terminology is the big things. To be able to understand what you're looking at and be able to progress in the field of sleep.
Okay, got it. Just so I know, because we have a lot of students who are doing their CNA training while they're in high school. So they get out and they do their clinical rotations, and then they when they graduate high school, they have their license.
Mhm.
Would someone like that be eligible to jump right in, or would you be looking for them to have some work experience before they would apply as a sleep technician?
I would be willing to talk with them. I certainly
Okay.
would. Just because they would have already taken those anatomy physiology
Right.
classes. They've already be a certified nursing assistant, and having some basic knowledge is really key for the medical part of it. But we do all the training as far as what you're looking at, how to identify respiratory events, how to identify somebody who's possibly having a seizure, or if somebody is having, oxygen desaturations or any of those kind of things. That's where we train. But having a basic knowledge of coming in is definitely key. So having a certified nursing assistant would be absolutely welcome.
Great. Good to know. Thank you. Um,
Yep.
And I always like to end with this one is when you were in this position, or maybe just from what you hear in your role now, what is the best thing about working as a sleep tech, and maybe what is the most challenging that you've seen?
I think the best thing is that, if you're the type of person who's a little bit more on the shy side, or if you tend to just like a quieter environment, you're working with a much smaller group of people. So you may have one or two other people working with you. For the most part, you're not going to be in a large environment. having that quieter environment is key for some people. Working at night is also, the key thing there. If you What was the other part of that question? I do apologize.
Well, yeah, so that's kind of the best. Like, what are maybe some of the challenges, which may actually also be the same thing. So night could be a
Yeah,
challenge for people,
night can
but
be a challenge. Yeah, so if you're a morning person who likes to get up at 4 a.m., it's probably not going to work really well for you. But for night people, it certainly is a benefit. I think the other piece is knowing, especially because we are a pediatric sleep lab, we are the only pediatric sleep lab in the state of Maine that does patients under the age of 6. So not only is it interacting with little guys who love to jump around and bounce on furniture and play and that sort of thing. We also have special needs people and putting the parents at ease. I think that is the other piece to that.
yeah.
So that can be a really great thing, and it can also be a bit of a challenge sometimes, just trying to make sure everybody is comfortable and everybody is put at ease.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I kind of forgot about the range of ages and the different needs at each level that would require. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah, this was wonderful. I learned a lot. I had no idea what a sleep technician did before we had this conversation, and I feel much more informed. So thank you so much for your time, Bettina. We really appreciate it. If students have further questions, where would you like me to direct them? Can I come to you if they have questions about moving forward?
Absolutely. And thank you very much for doing the interview as well. And they can absolutely reach out to me. You can certainly share my email address, and our phone number is 207-662-1535. That rings right into the sleep lab. And we're more than willing to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. You too. And have a great afternoon.